everybody, it's Fred here and welcome back to the Canadian Island Life channel. Well, the first couple of times getting out to the island in the springtime can be a little bit hectic. The boat is out at the island. I got half the motor down in my basement needing repair, the other half is on the island. My only means of transportation out to the island is going to be by canoe, assuming that the ice is going to be broke up to some degree. And if it's too early in the season, I have to worry about the ice and whether or not I can actually even put the boat in the water. The solitude and the privacy of a private island can no doubt be great. But in an emergency situation, if your only means of transportation back to society is a canoe, then that can be an unnerving feeling sometimes. So the first priority has to be to get the boat in the water, get the motor going, so that I got some reliable transportation when I'm up at the island. So to make things a little easier the first couple of times up to the island, I like to prepare some food up ahead of time and then I can store it in the freezer. That way when I get up there, I can simply just heat and eat, and the rest of my time can be spent looking after the priorities. So in today's episode, I'm going to cook up some seasoned chops. Initially, I was going to grill them inside the oven, but the weather turned out to be a little nicer than expected, so I threw them on the barbecue, which is always a good idea. So I hope you like this episode. It's a really simple recipe. Oh, and look down, don't forget, click the subscribe button, give us a like, and tell some friends about us.
Start off with some fresh brown sugar. Squeeze it out into our mixing bowl. Get the chunks out of it. Next, we're going to add some salt. I got kosher salt, but it can be any kind of table salt. And some chili. I want to make sure we don't overdo it with the chili. And then we'll put some garlic in, and we'll kind of go easy on that stuff too. Main ingredient's going to be the sugar and the salt. Cook it with that brown sugar on. Gets that nice caramelized finish to it. We'll just mix everything together. Make sure we got a nice even consistency. Now the pan I oiled up because initially I was going to broil it in the oven. So if you're going to do that, you might want to put some oil on the pan just so it doesn't stick. If you're barbecuing it, doesn't really matter. I got these chops from Costco. These are the butterfly chops, and they are so good. You can get some with the bone and the tenderloin. These are just the butterfly ones. And they're like about an inch thick. Just wait till I pull some out of the package here. It's unbelievable. And when they're that thick, it's very, very easy to cook them and they still come out nice and tender and juicy. It's when you get those little half-inch thick pork chops, they just kind of get real overdone and hard. These are nice to barbecue, nice to cook. It's easy to keep an eye on them and make sure that you don't overdo it. Just pat this down. Look at that. I'm starting to like these better than steaks. Occasionally you get a little bit of a disappointment with steak where it hasn't been aged long enough or something and it's just not tender or it's sinewy. This, for the money and what you get, it's a great deal. So just going to flip these over in the pan and then we'll season up the other side. Just pushing them all tight together, and then that way the seasoning doesn't fall through onto the plate. Try to get it as even as possible. Pat down on this side. And now I'm just going to spread them apart. There again, this is if you were going to do them in the oven. I'd probably set the oven at about 375. Let it preheat, but we're doing these in the barbecue, so I'm just going to step outside, clean off my barbecue. And load them up. They look good already. Well, there's somebody here who gets fed first, and that's Mushy. So without further ado, drop her a plate of food for supper. There you go. Okay, check on these things. Oh, look at that. Starting to look good. Now they're going to get a little bit blackened, and that's because of the sugar, so don't let that bother you. They're not actually really burning, they're just getting, the sugar's getting caramelized, and that tastes good. Oh yeah. Oh. Alright. Just adjust these a little bit. There we go. I think I'll just make up some corn to go along with this. Just throw in a little bit of butter or margarine. Sometimes I use olive oil too. Depends how healthy I'm feeling that day. Today it's just margarine. Put in some of that. Get some salt. A little bit of pepper. Stir it up. And we'll just let that simmer for a bit. Go back and check on the meat. This is coming along pretty good. I cut one open there to make sure it was done inside. I like to pull them off when they're just a little bit pink. Even though it's pork, you shouldn't really eat pink pork meat, but if they're just a wee bit pink inside, I'd bring them in and then I'd let them rest for a couple of minutes, and they usually finish cooking, and by that time they'll be just kind of the nice kind of white that you want, but without having lost all of the succulent juice. And one more. Oh, and look at that. That was a good piece of meat. So juicy, so tender.
Oh, that was absolutely delicious. I hope you're going to cook up a batch and enjoy them as much as I just did. Coming up in a future episode, I'm going to make a batch of my grandmother's favorite carrot and turnip soup. If you like a bacony kind of smoked meat flavor, you'll love this one. Do me a favor, look down, click the subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye for now.